Is a ceasefire really in the interest of either side right now? And how does that inform your thinking about whether or not this ultimately will happen?
You know, it's a fascinating question. And negotiations, there are many reasons that negotiations succeed. One of them is urgency. The two parties feel a certain amount of pain accompanied by the prospects of gain. So it's the pain-gain balance that determines whether the status quo changes. I'm not entirely persuaded either Hamas nor the government of Israel feels all that much urgency right now. I think the party that feels the urgency, for any number of reasons, is the Biden administration. Because without an Israeli-Hamas hostage for prisoner exchange, the administration cannot free hostages. They can't de-escalate Israeli military activity for 6 weeks or 6 months. And they can't find a way to surge badly needed humanitarian assistance into Gaza. So without that, I'm afraid you'd have to hang a kind of close for the season sign on U.S. policy in an effort, I think it's quite clear, to change the pictures in Gaza and to do it reasonably soon for any number of reasons, for policy reasons, for moral reasons, and of course for political reasons. We may, however, be closer than we've been in a long time to actually seeing an agreement. But as I mentioned, these negotiations usually have two speeds, slow and slow.
Well, with that said, it seems like it would help to have everyone at the table here, Aaron. Who's going to show up in Cairo? Hamas has not been clear about its feelings overall about this proposal or whether it will send a delegation to Cairo for talks tomorrow. How do you see this unfolding even in the next 24 hours?
You know, part of the uniqueness of this negotiation is that the principal decision maker on the Palestinian side, Yahya Sinwar, the architect of the October 7 terror surge, is communicating probably 20, 30 meters below ground in a tunnel structure, either below Rafah, Khan Yunis, or maybe even in Sinai. And for the last 6 months, the Israelis have been looking for the senior leadership, because if they find the senior leadership, you know the hostages will be very close and well protected, but they haven't been able to. So it's a very curious negotiation. He's the principal decision maker, and yet it is the external leadership that will show up in Cairo, not, by the way, at necessarily at a senior level, working level, but the Israelis will send a working level delegation. Look, if the past is prologue, the one guy who is not in this picture right now, CIA Director Bill Burns, I would keep your eye on whether or not Bill Burns is going to travel. He's been a key component with respect to these negotiations over the last 4 months. I still think there's a reasonable chance that you can see a deal. But remember, even if you got 6 weeks, Hamas will hold 50 hostages, the males, both civilian and military. And what they will want in exchange for those 50 is literally to empty the Israeli prisons, thousands of Palestinian prisoners, and they'll want a comprehensive ceasefire. That's going to be an extremely difficult lift on the Israeli side.
Well, something that could also make this process more difficult, according to our reporting, the concerns of the U.S. and allies that the International Criminal Court could be issuing warrants for Israeli officials. Do you think that's actually likely to happen? And what would that do to this entire effort?
You know, the Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor, already has a war crimes case against Israel and Hamas based on the conflict in 2014. Of course, the U.S. and Israel do not accept the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. The Americans have said, by the way, that they don't have jurisdiction. They're not a factor in this. But you have 123 and 24 countries that, in fact, are members of the ICC. And should these warrants be actually issued, it would make travel increasingly fraught for the prime minister, for the Israeli chief of staff, and for the minister of defense. And we know that part of that phone call, even though the White House isn't talking about it, part of that phone call between Netanyahu and the president was clearly, I'm sure, a cri de coeur plea from the Israeli prime minister to help beat back any effort with respect to ICC intervention in this particular crisis.
I want to ask you about what's happening on the campus of Columbia University and college campuses all over the country, Aaron. I'm curious your view. We spoke earlier with founder and CEO of Greenwich Media Strategies, a former director for Syria and Lebanon at the National Security Council, now at Columbia University. Hagar Shamali and her take on the future of the protests that are unfolding around the country. Here's what she said. We'll have you respond.
I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. And this is the thing. I think a lot of folks hope that the professors are hoping, okay, but the summer is coming and then students are going to go home. But the administration seems to believe and expect that these protests are going to continue until the election, at least, and that they're going to use the election and the political banter and focus to highlight this issue even more.
Aaron, we've only got about a minute left. What do people in Israel think of these protests?
It's hard to unpack this. I can only say that I was at the University of Michigan in the 70s during Vietnam. Been 27 years in government. Never have I seen any foreign policy issue, royal domestic politics, and the campuses as this one has. Not even U.S. deployment in Iraq and Afghanistan, where Americans were fighting and dying. There were protests, yes, but this sort of intensity. And we were also involved, not willfully or intentionally, in killing thousands of Afghans and Iraqis. So I really can't explain this. We live in an argue culture in this country where people have been driven to their corners, where passion is high, where rational dialogue and debate is not encouraged even. And the word compromise. Henry Clay was the great compromiser. Senator, in the 19th century, no Republican, in my judgment, would want to be called the great compromiser today. So I think this is a reflection of the sort of pernicious polarization. A lot of other factors as well here, but I would agree with your previous guest. I don't think this is going away. It's not the conventions. Then come the fall, depending on this stuff, how this is resolved, I suspect this issue will be back at it. An end to the Israeli-Hamas war, security and prosperity for Israelis and the 2.3 million Gazans would certainly help diminish the activism here. But we're a very, very, very long way away from that.